So grateful to join with you on this day. Thank you, Dad, for showing up and being willing to be here with us. Yay for that. And Angela, how's your Father's Day going?
Very good, thank you. My husband is taking a nap under a tree outside with a full
Ah,
belly. I cooked a lunch. He's in his pajamas. Don't
that
tell. Don't tell everybody I told you. Yeah.
that sounds great. Sounds like the perfect Father's Day activity. Yeah, beautiful. All right. So, and who's doing the prayer today?
It's also me, Jennifer.
Okay, great, great.
Yeah.
All right. Well, let's have you start us off with that prayer.
Okay. So please join me if you'd like to place your hands on your heart and just take a moment to take a nice full breath. So grateful to arrive to this now moment, which is such a blessed day. We're so grateful to be here with you, Jennifer, your community, and your beloved Father. We're so grateful that you are letting us into your life even more. And we're so grateful, Mr. Hadley, for your presence here today. We trust this will be a heart-opening conversation. So we, with each breath, just allow our being to open and relax and become more and more receptive to the gifts that are here awaiting us. We're also grateful for you, Andrea, and your crew for being here to uplift us with your song, with your gifts. So again, we're open, we're receptive. We allow this time to touch our hearts, to open our hearts, to deepen our connection to our spirit and the spirit that is in all of us. So we just sit back, relax. We're in full trust that this is the perfect place for us to be right now. And so we simply let the goodness flow, we receive it, and we go forth to share it. And so it is. Amen. Are you still muted, Jennifer? Okay.
There.
Okay.
And thank you for setting that beautiful, sweet tone for us, Angela. Angela is on the staff of the Power of Love Ministry. She has a very important role in our community support team. And she is one of the certified spiritual counselors who helps so many and helps guide them through our programs. She is a beautiful shining light and a teacher in her own right. And she's a powerful prayer practitioner. So we're glad to have you here today. And she is also, as I like to say, she's piloting the Zoom session today. She's our pilot. Yeah, beautiful. Well, as we're getting started here, and Andrea and Billy are going to give us a song in just a moment, I'm going to invite you also in the chat, if you like, to really think about your intentions in terms of focused on Father's Day. Maybe there's something to bring to the light in your past as a father or with your father, or maybe with your partner who's a father. So saying if there's something that you'd like to bring to the light, you can put that in the chat and we'll hold it for you and with you. And so without further ado, I'm going to introduce Andrea. Andrea Lane likens her sound to John Lennon meets Lady Gaga for Tea on a Spiritual Retreat. And she's accompanied by her husband and co-songwriter, Billy, who is a featured speaker and award-winning author. And certainly they raise the vibration wherever they go. This is true. I don't even know how long I've known you, Andrea, but it's got to be like 20 years.
At least.
Yes. So, and this, you've been to Sundays with Spirit a number of times. You were in the first year that I ever did Masterful Living. You were in that group. And so we are grateful to have you here with us today, raising the vibration high. Yay. Let's give a big hand.
I'll never forget Masterful Living. It totally changed my life. All right. Well, this song, I wrote it in 2017, and I really didn't do it last year because it's called Mask. You can see why, but I'm so grateful to bring it back. It's a great song. Take off your mask. I can see you anyway. Reveal your glory and all the blessings today. And let the rain wash over your soul. If there's any pain, let it go. Who's gonna run you? The truth or the lies? Which way are you voting? I am voting to fly, and I'll let the rain wash over my soul. If there's any pain, I'm letting go. Grateful, I am grateful. I am grateful. Ooh, 'cause I'm taking off my mask. You can see me anyway. You can see my glory. You can see my shame. And I'll let the rain wash over my soul. If there's any pain, I'm letting go. I am free.
Get our, this is the applause of the deaf. The silent applause. It's the Zoom applause now too. Yeah. Ah, that was great. Thank you. Yes, it definitely has a lot of different meaning now. I see what you mean. That was great. I love it. I love it. And it did make me think I noticed this the other day. I'm in Vermont. We're 80% vaccinated here. We were the first ones. I don't know if any of the other states have reached 80%, but we've been at 80% for maybe 10 days or something. And so people are not wearing masks all the time here. And we also didn't have that thing of, I'm not going to wear a mask. And so everybody was just masking up. It was not a question or a conversation people were having here in Vermont. And but I'm still doing that thing of I put on my lip gloss to go into the store, and then I realize now I'm going to have to take off my lip gloss or it's going to get all over my mask. Still doing it. Still doing it. Just what can I tell you? All right, so I am so happy to introduce everybody to my father, Danny Wells Hadley. I've known him all my life, and and we have a great relationship. We haven't always had a great relationship, but we definitely have a great relationship now. And I'm so happy you can be here, Dad. And I don't know if you, what we said was we were just going to go with the flow here and see what comes up. So I don't know, Dad, if you had a story or anything that you'd like to start off with, or shall I start us off? What are you thinking?
Well, I believe in proper planning prevents poor performance. I got hardwired in me when I was being trained to be a consultant. And it just helps me to make notes to remind myself of certain things I might want to share. Of course, the first thing to say, I couldn't be a father without Jennifer. I mean, that's the way these things work. And Jennifer was her mother, and it was our first, she was our first child. So you remember those things quite profoundly. Mm-hmm. And I can tell you when we first found out that Jennifer was on her way, I was thrilled. And I don't know where that came from. And maybe it's hardwired, I don't know. But I actually was. And I remember telling, I was an undergrad, well, maybe I was well, I think I was an undergraduate at Michigan, maybe my senior year. And I told a friend of mine who I met on the campus, and he looked at me like, what? You know, but it's true. I was instantly thrilled. Though as it turned out, I really didn't know much about how to be a parent. And I can remember, you know, the early memories. We were driving from Ann Arbor down to Bowling Green, Ohio, to visit my parents. And we had Jennifer in the back seat in a kind of portable crib. And you know, when you have a child, it just kind of occupies your life. I mean, it's just at the center of your life. And I remember saying something to Jennifer, who was in the back, and I called her Buggy Muffin. And she is my Buggy Muffin. But neither her mother nor I really knew much about children. I was the youngest of 4 boys, no sisters. Jennifer's mother, Gail, was an only child. So like in a lot of situations, you learn on the job, so to speak. It's like the line from Gone with the Wind. I don't know nothing about birthing babies. I don't know if you remember that line, but I didn't know anything. And so Jennifer introduced me to that miraculous experience. I could stop now or continue on. What would you like me to do?
Well, what I think I'll do here, Dad, you sent me this picture this morning. I'm just going to share this picture.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, because you were 22
Yep.
when I was born. And
Correct.
so I was probably coming up on 3 here.
Sounds right.
Yeah, so it was probably about 1962, maybe
Or 3, somewhere in there. Yeah.
somewhere in there. And so you would have been about 25.
Yeah.
Yeah. And just to give people some context for when I was born and what was going on in the world, and you were working on, I guess, your master's.
I think at that time, yes, the master's.
Yeah, and then you went on to your PhD.
Yep.
And I was working on walking and growing up.
It seemed to have mastered that mostly.
Yeah, mostly. And I was thinking about it earlier, that what am I grateful for in my life with you and Mom, and that one of the things I'm most grateful for is that I always felt, unlike some children, I always felt that you and Mom put family first.
Yeah.
That family and our connections and our relationships was more important than either of your careers or anything else that was going on in our lives. That the family was the center of our lives, and for me growing up, that gave me quite a lot of stability. And it still does. It still does. I feel that family is at the core of things in my heart. And I'm really grateful for that, because I've watched a lot of people, especially when I lived in LA, where I felt like for many people I encountered in LA, children were more like accoutrement, more like something on the side, and part of their life, but not the focus of their life. The focus of their life was their personal experience of being able to have fun and go on fun trips, and so family was a secondary thing. So I'm just so grateful for that foundation.
Well, let me note, I was blessed. As I say, I was the youngest of 4 boys. My mother practiced unconditional love. And I didn't make it easy. I could get in a lot of trouble. But even sometimes when I get in trouble in school, she was always on my side. And I think sometimes even maybe too much, but it really strengthened, my inner core. Very, very important. So, as I'll share with you maybe in a moment, that enabled me to have ultimately a good relationship with Jennifer. Jennifer was very strong-willed as a 4 or 5-year-old. She right away had a strong sense of who she was. And so responding to parental authority was a challenge. I can remember when Jennifer, when you were 5 years old, I don't know, you did something where you were showing great resistance. I wouldn't call it a temper tantrum, because you were more in control than that, but you could really get yourself worked up. And I just said out loud, I don't know to who, maybe just myself, she wasn't meant to be a child. Now, I don't know where that came from, but I think it actually was true. Because, you know, when you're a child and you're growing up, you're circumscribed by adults, institutions, conventions. And how the hell do you make your way in that? For a person who has a strong sense of who she is and what she's about. I'll pause.
Well, I do remember thinking many times when I was a kid, Dad, that you and Mom would try to tell me what to do or what not to do. And I would think, why do they think they can tell me what to do and not, you know, why are they bossing me around? Who do they think they are? I do remember having that thought frequently. And you might appreciate this, Dad. I had an astrology reading with a woman who does astrology from the Kabbalistic, the Jewish Hebrew tradition. And she was telling me about past lives and that I had had a number of lives as a very, very successful military leader, of course, telling everybody what to do. Yeah. So
that's what it's about.
Yeah. And just as an aside, I had known that. I figured that out myself in my 20s, in my teens and 20s, actually, when I went to see certain war movies like The Deer Hunter. I went back and saw The Deer Hunter 5 times. And that's not a movie you would think you'd want to see in the theater again and again, but I was really obsessed with it. And then when I went to see Platoon, that movie dropped a bomb in my life. I walked around for days having flashbacks and all kinds of things and sobbing about the pointlessness of war and really just feeling like it was this huge catharsis for me. So I do think I brought in with me this whole pattern of being this commanding, controlling person who needed to be in control of everything. So I know I didn't make it easy, but I don't feel that same controlling need anymore. I've done a lot of work on that.
Well, also in your adolescence, I mean, every adolescence is stormy to some degree. And it's basically, we all try in our adolescence to establish our identity. And sometimes parents and institutions can crush that. And so we end up being angry for a long, long time. Well, Jennifer was cursed to have stupid parents. She's shaking her head. Well, I remember times when you thought we were stupid and even said we were. For example, I can remember when I go to restaurants, I look at the bill very carefully. And if a restaurant or waiter is undercharged, I tell them about it. Oh, you forgot that we did this. Oh, this should be $10 more. And Jennifer witnessed that. And there were maybe other things, but I can remember she thought that kind of sense of responsibility or connection to a shared social life was stupid. So what happened? I'm just going to say your adolescence, as I remember, because while it had that in it, and the resistance and the curse of having stupid parents, she came home from school, and I'm going to get emotional about this. You came home from school and you said, and you know, all schools, when you get into your adolescence, get 10th to 11th grade, you have to find your tribe. You have to find where you fit in and where you don't fit in, and the people you want to be closer to and the people you don't want to have anything to do with, and the people who like you and the people who don't like you at all. It's a challenge. So she came over, I believe it was the start of the 11th grade, and said, "This school sucks." So I said, "Okay, we're going to do something about that." There was a public school, Barrington, Rhode Island, considered to be a wonderful place to go to school. Great schools, middle class, but authoritative. So I knew something about education in schools because I taught in the education department at Brown University. So I knew about this alternative school, School One. And that's a school, you know, in the 60s, alternative schools, very popular. It's a school that basically, I don't say this was a motto, but the practice was this education belongs to you, students. It's not ours, it's yours. So the first few weeks, Jennifer would skip some classes. And I was okay with them. Hey, it's your education. They didn't want to send people out or call us up and say, Jennifer's not coming. But eventually, she began to, I said I'd get emotional. She began to understand that this was a community and she was part of it. And it belonged to her. I don't think that had any effect on the rest of her life, of course. So Jennifer, the rebel adolescent, rejecting authority, became the model student because she could see people practicing ethical values together, creating it. Where did that come from? So I have to say that she learned to help create a community. And that's what you do now.
For sure.
So I get emotional because I still remember that day when she said, that school sucks. And I said, okay, we'll do something about it. And fortunately, we found a home. And Jennifer learned not only how to build a community, but she also learned that her parents maybe weren't so stupid. Less stupid anyway. So anyway, I'll pause for a moment.
Well, on all of the things that you're sharing there, Dad, you're getting some applause there from Ted and Frank. I still do things like I'll go back into the store with a receipt and say, you forgot to charge me for this. I noticed on the receipt, you forgot to charge me for this. So I learned that responsibility, shared responsibility. And it was when I was in the 9th grade, I had an English teacher named Mrs. Gross. And there was some kind of a test about Huckleberry Finn or one of those Mark Twain books. And there was an essay question at the end, and it was, in your opinion, blah, blah, blah. And I got it wrong. And I went to her after class and I said, how can my opinion be wrong? It's the very nature of an opinion that it's not right or wrong. It's just my take on it. And she said, well, you got it wrong. And that's the thing that sent me home that day, saying, I can't do this anymore. This is too much for me. And thank God you did know, and you and Mom, and had the presence of mind and the willingness to make a major financial investment to send me to School One and to trust me to take the bus from Barrington to Providence and back again. You know, that was a huge investment at the time for the family. I know that. And it was a lot of trust. and it was life-changing for me. So it was a very good investment, Dad. And it still pays off, and I'm grateful, very grateful. You know, the other thing I was thinking about this morning, Dad, that I'm so grateful for that you and Mom taught me is it is related to community, because my earliest memories are being in Willow Run and living in that community, which was an experimental community. I'll let you tell about it if you wish. But also what I remember from the 60s when I was a kid, because I was born in 1959, right at the end of 1959. So what I remember in the 60s and the 70s is you and Mom working for civil rights, working for social justice, marching against the war in Vietnam, and all of those kinds of things. And what I took from that is that we do have a civic duty, but we also have a social responsibility, that if we don't like things in the world, we don't like things in the community, that it's our job to take responsibility for shifting them and contributing, and not just being a passive victim of what the world we don't like. So, and that obviously is the path of my life. So I really feel you instilled that in me, and working for others all the time. And I know you got that from your parents, because I know that was how your parents operated. They were so involved in doing things for the community.
Well, yes, and Willow Run, you say it was an experimental community. In 1963, I believe it was, we moved into a development outside of Ann Arbor in Ypsilanti, Michigan. And it had about maybe 200 units, and it was 90% Black. So we lived in a Black community. And Jennifer's mother and I got very involved in the community. Indeed, her mother was one of the first, helped to establish the first Head Start concept any place. When Lyndon Johnson assumed the presidency, you know, he embraced the war on poverty. And there were 2 grants that were given for community development, and one was where we were living. So we created a community. There had been a community, but after the war, and there was generally good race relations, but it all broke up after the war. Well, this was an attempt to kind of recreate that again, with whites and Blacks living together, running their life together. And it was a terrific experience. And of course, Jennifer not only was surrounded by that, but when particularly her mother would go to civil rights demonstrations in Detroit, she would push Jennifer, you know, in a carriage and with signs. Someplace we have pictures of that as well. So Jennifer is not late to the game. And I think her view is that living in a community shared with people of all races is just natural. I mean, that's the advantage when you're a kid, you grow up in that. So that's very helpful.
Yeah, it really deeply, deeply impacted me. Your views and Mom's views of what is most important in our lives and social justice, the beloved community being way up there at the top of the list. And it's our responsibility to bring them forward, to make them a reality.
And it's not talk, you act on it. And it's no big deal. This is what you do.
And it's joyful. It's joyful.
Yep.
Because that's the only way we'll have peace on earth. And to be able to truly love our brothers and sisters and to love ourselves is through learning to see the beauty in the different cultures and to have respect for them, and to recognize that every culture and community has gifts to offer and we can embrace them all. Yeah. I did promise people that they could ask questions. And so if anybody does have a question, you can raise your hand. There's Ted starting us off. You can raise your hand. If you don't see the raise hand button under the reactions button on the bottom bar, you might see it under participants and then under more. And you can also put a question in the chat. So Ted's in Masterful Living, by the way, Dad.
Okay.
Hi, Danny.
And he's in that. We have a men's ministry in Masterful Living now too, and Ted's part of that as well.
Oh,
That's right.
great.
Well, I'm sure I'm speaking for most of the people here. You know, Danny, we love your daughter. You did a good job. I was born in Detroit and raised in the burbs, so I know where you're talking about. I still have family out by the airport, Willow Run, and
Oh, yeah.
So here's a little twist. You've got to have grown up with Motown. I mean, the music is the
Oh, yeah.
best. I mean, did you listen to it?
Oh, sure. And also went into the jazz clubs in Detroit. I saw Miles Davis playing at the Bluebird Inn
Yeah.
in a room that probably held at most 60 people. The Miles Davis Quintet.
Yeah, the best, man.
And I used to go to 12th Street. Oh, I don't know if I can remember all the names of the musicians, but yeah, I was a jazz nut too. So,
All right.
but when I rode in the car, I always listened to the Motown music. What was WCRB?
There you go.
Yeah.
All right, I know that wasn't a Masterful Living question, but you know, growing up in Detroit
Hey, it's
area,
life.
you know.
It's totally fine, Ted. I've never heard my dad say he saw Miles Davis in a club, so I just learned something. That's awesome. I'm jealous.
Yeah, it was the whole quintet. It was before he still faced the audience then. I think, well, anyway, I won't go on. But
Good stuff. Thank
Yeah.
you.
Thanks, Ted. And Laurel's raising her hand. I see you've got a haircut, Laurel. Looks great.
Thank you. I just read Cicely Tyson's autobiography and her relationship with Miles Davis. Very interesting.
yeah,
Yeah. What a guy. Wow. I'm curious, Danny. Jennifer's told us that you didn't raise her with any particular religious upbringing, right?
Right.
Well, what has it been like watching her blossom as a spiritual teacher? And has that opened up your spiritual world any?
Well, that's a very interesting question. We did make some efforts, Gail and I, to introduce them to conventional religious experience. There was, I believe, either congregational or Presbyterian, congregational church
Yeah.
in Barrington, where Jennifer grew up, really. Or,
We moved there when I was almost 10. I was,
but it didn't resonate with us. So in a way, it was kind of forced attendance on them. To go to Sunday school and stuff like that. But the problem, I think, for me was I was raised a Unitarian, and there weren't any Unitarian churches right nearby. Had to go into Providence. And now I'm a Unitarian Universalist. So how do I view Jennifer now as living this rich spiritual life?
Mm-hmm.
Well, I see along the way when Jennifer went to Los Angeles to go to UCLA, was it UCLA or USC?
USC.
USC, the film school. She got involved in a religious community there. And
Agape.
Agape, which led her on a path to religious practice. And it was clear that she wanted to be a spiritual counselor. And so Jennifer and I have talked over time about how she organizes and communicates her mission. I do mostly listening, but occasionally I have a few ideas about how to reach out. I have often thought, matter of fact, when you graduated from the Agape School of Ministry, I don't know if I still have my notes on that, but Jennifer's a searcher. And when you're a searcher, you're really open to the world in a way that I don't think I am that much.
Mhm.
Or at least there's a contrast.
Mm-hmm.
So I celebrate Jennifer's mission and practice. Follow up?
Has it raised any questions in your own mind that you didn't entertain before?
Well, I guess not. I can't see why.
Yeah.
But you have
Thank
to
you.
recall, unconditional love goes a long way.
It's everything.
Yeah.
It's everything. Yeah.
So there have been times when Jennifer's made some decisions independent of the spiritual practice that I would have said, nah, I don't know about that. But I still always had faith in Jennifer. And part of it was because she was not frozen. She was always exploring, searching. For a while, she worked with a rock and roll musician, Billy Idol, worked around people who were using cocaine and making terrible decisions. And remember, she would consult with me about that situation. Should she still continue working there? This is before she got into the spiritual practice, at least as I understand. But I was always reluctant to say, well, do something different, get out of there, because it's really her decision, not mine. And she did make the decision to absence herself from that. I will tell you, if I can share this, I may be saying more than I should, but one of Jennifer's earlier aspirations was to be a rock and roll manager. Do you know how many female rock and roll managers there are working with rock and roll bands?
Not many.
I don't think there were any back then. So
No, no. But, you know, it's nice to have aspirations. It really is. And what was it about? I think that she wanted to really organize that kind of energy. But now it's a different type of energy. It's pure spiritual energy. It's not ranting and raving. And I'm a jazz guy. I could never, I don't like rock and roll. I'll just say that. Okay? I'm like Frank Sinatra, you know, or Ella Fitzgerald, you know, different world. But that was important, I think, Jennifer, for your experience and development. And your work in the theater, the same thing. Thank you.
Thank you.
thanks, Laurel. Great question. And Diane has a question here. She says, on this Father's Day, what is your advice to dads and their children who have wounds and pain, how to heal and forgive each other?
Well, as Jennifer has shared, it's really kind of at the core, as I understand it, your spiritual practice. I call it a practice. Forgiveness. It's as simple as that and as complex as that. I once heard a friend shared with me that he had a conflicting relationship with his mother, and his mother died. And he was suffering because he hadn't really found a way to get connected and heal. So the friend said, why don't you write her a letter and tell her how you feel and how you love her? Sometimes it's hard to forgive others. I'm pretty good at it, but there are times when, I don't know. I had a brother that I don't need to go into the relationship, but he was very self-centered. And when my mother was dying, he was a doctor. He would not go and visit her. And I couldn't forgive him, really, for a long time. Until I sat down with him once and just got him to tell me why he didn't want to come see his mother. And then I came to understand his point of view, which as a doctor, he was no good at treating his children or the rest of his family. And that was a barrier for him. And I would never have understood that unless I was willing to sit down with him and just listen to him and not try to contest what he was saying, but to try to understand. It helped me a lot. And I think it helped him. But I'm no authority, you know, on forgiveness. One of the most powerful concepts that there is.
Yes. You're you're preaching to the choir here. No, but it's wonderful to hear you say it, Dad. Again, people can raise their hand. They could put a question in the chat. I'd like to say here that I know I've been counseling parents for the last 20 years. And my dad and we had some rough times, as I put in my daily spiritual espresso today. And we had some really rough times, hard times, and where we fought a lot, and we were in an ego battle too, to try and win. And we got through that, and we got past it. And because we fundamentally, we love each other, we care about each other, and that is more important than being right. And also, I think we both changed. We've both changed a lot. We both are far more tolerant and of different points of view. We don't need to be right about everything anymore. And we have really shifted and changed. And when I was younger, I smoked a lot of pot, and I did things like that. And I know I've counseled parents about their own children's drug use and behavior. And I think I'm a good example of someone who turned out well, who maybe it didn't look so good there for a while. And so I think maybe that's something you might like to share with people, Dad, how to hold that space for people when they're, space, how to, as a parent, how to hold that space for your children.
Well, I wonder if that spontaneous thought that I had, that you were not meant to be a child, I have no idea where that came from. I've never heard that before, but it might have made me a little more tolerant of, not a lot, but a little more tolerant of the adolescents acting out. And, I do have to say that school one, I really think it did a number of things. First of all, it was something you wanted to do. Secondly, it was a very small community. It wasn't a big institution. Classes were very small. The teachers were friends. What the hell? How do you do that? That's against the law, isn't it? I think. And it was a community that operated democratically. And it was a diverse community, right?
Yes. All things I like.
Pardon?
All things that I like.
And so I've forgotten what the question is.
Well, I was just saying, do you have any words for people who might be parents and worried about their teenagers?
Well, as I said, unconditional love, but that may not be in everybody's quiver. They might not have that as a source. And I didn't create that. It was bestowed upon me. I think you just some way to still find ways of saying, I love you, even though you drive me absolutely crazy. I don't know what to do about you. Oh yeah, that was another principle that I learned with Jennifer. If Jennifer was resistant, at some point along the way, I said when she was an adolescent, that doesn't mean she's not learning what we're trying to communicate to her. The reason she's resisting is because she's learning what we're trying to communicate about how we think, how we order our life, and how we think, indeed, how she ought to behave. She may, but in order to do, you have to listen to it. You have to hear it. You have to take it in and then resist it. So that's an important principle. Don't assume because your kids are pushing back and rejecting you and think you're stupid, that they're not hearing what you're trying to tell them. I mean, look what happened to Jennifer. She got all screwed up. But that's not something I thought about. It just popped into my head. I said, she's resisting very. There was another dimension to the resistance, which is, okay, I hear what you're saying, but the important part of that is I hear what you're saying. And you may not discover that until they get into their 20s or maybe even older, and suddenly they find, those parents are pretty smart. They've got a lot of good things, hopefully.
Well, definitely in my case. Nancy's got a question here, and then we're going to go into our meditation.
No question, Jennifer. I want gratitude and thank you, you and your dad. This is such a precious gift that I'm speaking for myself. This is a precious gift from both of you. And I wanted to thank you for that. And the words that stick out for me are the unconditional love, acceptance, and respect. And I like what you just said, Danny, about, let's skip everything you said, but the one thing you said that you said, listening. You listened and you understood everything you said. Everything together, and it's like respect. You two modeled. I mean, I only know that you two. You're modeling right at the moment. You're modeling the love. And a few minutes ago, somebody said something about masterful living, and I said, well, this whole community, you're just modeling masterful living. It's so perfect. Jennifer can tell you, my whole horrible story living in my mom and everything, but you are like the epitome of what love can do in the world.
Yes.
And it's the hearing and listening and the non-judgment. There it is, the non-judgment. So thank you, Jennifer, for this gift. Thank you, Danny, for this gift.
Thank you.
Thank you, Nancy.
I couldn't do it without Jennifer.
Yes. Yep. We've gone on a journey, and there were times when it seemed really, really, really hard. But that's long behind us, because we didn't want to keep it going. We wanted to let that part go. We wanted to let the differences go. And so much of, I think, the anger and the fighting and the things that go on in all of our relationships is there's a deep fear that the love's not there, that it's not real. There's a deep fear that we're going to lose connection with each other. There's a deep fear that the person could reject us, that the person doesn't really care enough to weather the storm with us. And so that was one thing that I think was always known by me with my parents, is that they weren't going to give up on me ever. I never thought for one second that they would give up on me. I've always felt that they had my back. Even if they didn't agree with me, they still supported me. And that's wonderful, because a lot of parents do reject their children when they don't agree, and children reject their parents when they don't agree. But while we went through periods where we had a lot of fighting, we never really went to that place of rejection. Okay, Frank's got his hand up here. I'm going to say, go for it, Frank, and then we'll do our meditation. Frank's in Germany, by the way, Dad.
That's correct. Well, this really, Danny and Jennifer, is such a present on Father's Day, and you couldn't have thought it up better. It really is incredible. And the thought that just came into my mind that summarizes all that beauty and wisdom and love that you that you had us participate on your journey, Danny, is it's not only Virgin Mary that raised Jesus Christ. And I can really see all the divine energies and insights and impulses that you receive from, you say it yourself, from wherever, which I'm so grateful. And yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you, Frank. Frank's in Masterful Living too, Dad.
Ah, good.
Much to my advantage, I am, yes.
All right. So, Dad, this is the point where I lead a guided meditation. So we're going to do that. And then we're going to have a song with Andrea and Billy.
Okay.
So I'm going to invite everybody to place their hands on their hearts. And let's go within here and take inspiration in this moment from the love that my dad and I have for each other and that we have for ourselves, and our commitment to having a loving and harmonious relationship, a supportive relationship. And I'm inviting you to consider anything that you feel is unsaid between you and your father, or you and your children, you and your parents, you and your children, anything that you are feeling in this moment has been unsaid. I'm just bringing that into the front of your heart right now. And knowing that there are no mistakes in God. Opportunities come around again. We're eternal. Our relationships are eternal. Love is eternal. It's never too late to say, I love you, I appreciate you, I thank God for you. And that these messages can be communicated beyond time and space. So even if it seems like that person isn't on the earth anymore, isn't able to be communicated with anymore, we communicate at the level of the mind where everything is heard, everything is known. And let us take this moment to communicate that now at the level of the mind. Whatever opportunity was missed in the past, let's take that moment now and mentally communicate those messages to our parents, to our children. And now there may be a message that we're to receive from our parents, from our children, something that we haven't really heard before, that we weren't fully listening in the past? Is there a message that they are broadcasting to us that we can now fully hear and fully take in? Let's listen for that. And let's continue this dialogue as we go into the song with Andrea and Billy here.
Okay, this is called Melody for the Sun. Oh, the sun shines bright in my head. Oh, the sun brings life. I breathe it in. I breathe it in. I breathe it out. And there's a sneaking possibility that I create my world with my intent. And how I wake up every morning feeling grateful I'm alive, that is the key. Just be. Just oh, I'm being lifted up. Oh, oh, in my dreams I'm flying high. Oh, just there are moments when I call upon the angels. Will they cloak me with their grace? And they protect my every movement as I'm walking in the world. It's not a race. Just just oh, don't go it all alone. No. Angels, they bring clarity. Oh. Don't go it all alone.
Wow. So good. Wow. It's wonderful. Andrea, your music is just so uplifting and healing. Thank you. Thank you. What a blessing. Yes. So good. All right, we're going to do that thing that we do here now. We're going to do the breakout and let's do the breakout. So Angela is going to assign the rooms here. So in your breakout room, see if you can make sure everybody who would like to share gets a chance to share. And if you don't wish to share, just take a pass, no big deal. It is so nurturing to be able to listen to our brothers and sisters and really be in that place of honoring our hearts with each other. So here we go. Dad, don't hit the button that say don't join. Oh, it's irresistible. It is, it's irresistible. I've done it myself. Yeah. So let's see. I'll go in and get him. And where's that room? Is he in there?
He's at the bottom. I don't mind. Is that helpful?
Yeah, go ahead. You go.
Okay.
Okay. All right. So Rosalind, would you like to share? I know Kieran J is got her grandson with her tonight.
Yes, I would love to share. I hope that you can convey to your dad. I would love for him to hear.
Yeah, give him a second. He'll come back.
Okay. Maybe I'll talk about something else before he gets back. What I'm very, very touched by, this being Father's Day and your meditation, Jennifer, and what hit me personally is that if quantum physics is right and we're just energy, then it's not personal, that it's not just the father that we were birthed from in this world, but we can receive, as Rand said jokingly, can I be your brother? Can I be Danny? Can I be your son? Today, I received an incredible experience with Dove Fishman. Everybody who's a Course in Miracles person knows him. And I sent him the tulip and tree because I knew his wife passed on. And he doesn't know me. I just said, you don't need anything, but I thought you might enjoy seeing this. And my daughter passed a little longer than your wife, but just wanted to share. And I have never sent something to somebody I don't know ever. And I had no agenda. I'm so glad you're back. I'll include you in a minute. Mr. Hadley, I have so much respect for you. I want to call you Mr. Hadley. And he began offering me things like, would you like to join me in this? And I read your whole website, every page. And he said, I have never read anything people send me. I never read them. And I said, I never send. And something happened. I don't know how much older he is than me, a bit, but he can give things. I received a fatherly embrace from someone I don't even know, who's grandfather to A Course in Miracles. But my father would have loved to give those things, but emotionally, he is not capable. He was not capable in his lifetime of seeing those things. So getting back to you, Mr. Hadley, I'm very, very touched by your exchange with Jennifer. And of course, we know so much about her side of your relationship growing up, the hard times, the good times, the sweet times. In A Course in Miracles, we call this a holy relationship. And what I interpret that to mean is that you see the person as they are now, with no old stories, just love and respect and maybe wonder of how you both got here, how this moment can be what it is, and just a celebration of life. And I see that in the two of you, and it's very, very touching. And she is an intellect like you, but I don't know, there's no but, she took that intellectual ability and pursuing and took it one step further to embody it. And that's what she teaches us. Yes, there are these new thought ideas, and they're only real if you make them yours. That's my interpretation of her teaching. And I see you as a mentor in your own way, because you've been on your own journey and parallel journeys that are not as different as you both might have thought, because they both brought you back to love. And what could be any better? And I celebrate you both on this Father's Day for sharing your mother-daughter, father-daughter relationship that many people wish they could have with someone. And I want to bring it back to Andrea's song of Take Your Mask Off, because I feel the greatest things have happened to me the more and more my mask comes off, and the more I dare to be what God would have me be, the more I am less afraid of how it would be received, and just dare. So, and then of course, Angela always brings us up with, she said, let the good in. And that could be our motto for life, because you've done that. And that's what I wish to do. And that's my story of Dove as well. Letting the good in, being open. So fathering, mothering, and being the children where we receive and allow. It's such a gift. So thank you for what you've given us today.
Thank you, Rosalind. And Dad, Rosalind is in our Masterful Living classes. She's also a teacher and teaches for the ministry, and she speaks and all kinds of things.
I'm reminded of a phrase. I'm hearing people sending, well, for lack of a better word, praise, towards me. But I can't remember which poet who said, the child is the father of the man, something like that. You ever hear that expression? Well, the thought is that if Jennifer were not Jennifer, I could not have learned how to be a parent. Who's the teacher here?
Yes, we're all teachers and we're all students.
Right.
Yes. And you were and are a fabulous teacher as well as a student.
Except for my flaws.
Wow. That's the crystal, the diamond. Yeah.
Our flaws teach us too, right?
Right.
Our shortcomings, our challenges, that's where we learn the most. And Faith is also a leader in our community and a member of Masterful Living here. Faith, would you like to share something?
Yes, I would love to share. Mr. Hadley, so wonderful to see you on this call. I have been a friend and of Jennifer's for a long time. She's been my mentor and friend, and just so thrilled to be a part of this community. So as I was listening to you and Jennifer speak, I thought about my own father who passed a couple of years ago, and as you were talking about what you have learned from each other, I remembered the things that I have learned from my father. and mutual respect and tolerance and respect for all people. The things that were so present in my father, and I learned them from a very early age. And I realized that that was instilled in me, by his spirit. And it was something I've carried and now we had problems together sometimes. There were some difficulties. That and the love of music, which I see that you have that same love of music, and Jennifer does. So we all shared that. My father played guitar. I learned the love of playing guitar and music when I was quite young from him. And yeah, so that's what I'm just so grateful today to be able to experience. And in that prayer that you gave us, Jennifer, today, I was able to really deeply connect with my father today and to thank him for the gifts that he gave me.
Yay. Beautiful. Thank you, Faith. Angela, would you like to share something?
Oh, okay. Before I go,
yeah.
I want to go back because I did want to say to Andrea, oh my goodness, Andrea, I have just your new songs and these are amazing. Your voice is like angelic, and it's like there's a new evolved evolution here, and I am just loving it.
Yes.
Again, I've known Andrea for a long time. We played music together. We have enjoyed each other's artistry, and just I had to say something. It was so beautiful today.
Yes, so true. And Dad, Andrea and Faith are both from the Agape community. That's where I know them from.
Oh, hey.
They're in LA. And Angela is a member of the Power of Love Ministry staff, as I said at the beginning. And Angela, would you like to share something?
Yeah, I've been laughing and crying the whole time, like every time I'm at this Sundays with Spirit. But it did feel like the most riveting kind of like TV you could ever watch, which is just an authentic unfolding of your sharing. But it does touch me so deeply to see the picture of you as a young child, and just like, it's like, I love to go to the spiritual realm where we're beyond the body and we're beyond the relationships, but to be in the preciousness of them right here, it's like there's also this is precious. We don't always need to leave it. There's such beauty in this realm. So I just appreciate feeling that, and connecting with my dad. I didn't get to see my dad today, but I will soon. But just feeling that, just the preciousness of life through your sharing. So thank you.
Thank you, Angela. And we have a couple minutes left, maybe. Andrea, would you like to share anything?
Sorry. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Oh my God, technology. Thank you, Mr. Hadley, for, can you stop for a second? For that beautiful talk. It was so interesting to hear a little bit about Reverend Jennifer's past, like she wanted to be a rock and roll manager. Hello, I would have been at your door waiting. So that was totally interesting. And I knew about the film school, which is also interesting. What you're doing now is just, it's a beautiful evolution of everything. And you are just one of my favorite spiritual mentors ever. So I wanted to say that. And thank you, Faith, about the music. I have been stepping out and taking bigger risks with my voice. I've always had a high voice, but it's more risky. It's more risky to sing high, and so I just been risking it, and I appreciate your feedback. And the songs are evolving too, so thank you. And thank you. Great to be here, everybody.
So good.
Thank you.
So good. Dad, anything you'd like to share? People will be coming back here in just a minute or so from the breakouts.
Well, a couple things come to mind. I remember when you were going to apply for a job, you might have been
13.
13 at a local amusement park called Crescent Park. And you were kind of nervous about it, understandably, and not sure that they would accept you, perhaps because of your age or your experience. But I guess I loved you. I do love you. But I just said to Jennifer, Jennifer, they're going to be very lucky to get you. And of course, she got the job, as opposed, I hope, to feeling like, oh, they won't want me, I'm not good enough and everything. And it was true because I knew her skills, her sensibility, her sense of responsibility. So it was easy, again. And why did I use? Because she told me to say that.
What?
But you just presented yourself and that invited me to say that. That's the sense of meaning. I have just can I make one other comment that may not?
Sure.
Okay. It's when Jennifer got beyond thinking her parents were stupid. And I'm sure she didn't think of that. It was at a superficial level. But we went to London in 1974. And this was at the time of the peak of the Beatles, if I recall correctly. And
No, well,
wasn't 74?
it was 76.
Okay, 76. And Jennifer wanted to spend all of her time in, what's it called, Carmody Street?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Anyway.
It was a good place to be and go to concerts. And of course, her mother and I were going to museums and to plays. And she didn't want to go with us. But we went to a premiere performance of the play Equus.
Yeah.
And it was just a powerful play, powerful performance. It hooked Jennifer. She decided, this is interesting stuff. And it may have been what pushed you towards theater. That experience just opened, but you were probably already open to it anyway, because we went to the theater a lot. But it was just another one of those moments that, we could have left Jennifer at home. We left her brother in the hotel, but we wanted her to come with us. And as I said, it was a powerful theatrical performance. And from then on, wherever we wanted to go, Jennifer came right along with us. So these things you don't know. You don't plan them, they just happen. But it made an impression on me, obviously.
Well, thank you for that reminder, Dad. I'll say a couple of quick things here. First, if anybody, how was the breakout? Was it good? All right. And this is your opportunity to put into the chat, if you'd like to, any declarations you'd like to make, any decisions you've made, any insights or ahas to be able to share it with the group. I invite you to do that if you like. And while you're doing that, I'm just going to say that, Dad, you remind me that one of the great things for me growing up was you and Mom did, you did really, I mean, you and Mom love the arts and culture. And so you took me to plays and to all kinds of things from a young age. And so I grew up having those kinds of experiences and the benefits of them. And they were profoundly inspiring, as the arts are, all the arts, all the different kinds of arts, from dance and music and theater and poetry, all kinds of arts and entertainment, and teaching me the importance of that. And a lot of the things that you introduced me to were really life-changing experiences. You and I have talked recently about how life-changing it was for me on that same trip to Europe. We went to the Van Gogh Museum in Amsterdam, and that was a life game changer for me. It was a real game changer for me. It really just, it blew me away. Absolutely blew me away. I'd never, because before that, you know, I'd seen Van Gogh paintings, prints on a wall. Sunflowers were on the Hamilton's wall in their den, you know, and people would talk about Van Gogh, and I'd think of that sunflower picture on the wall or something that was in a textbook at school, and I'd think, I don't get it. I don't see what they're talking about. Van Gogh, big deal. But standing there in the museum and seeing his work, like literally it changed me. I knew I was changed in that moment by his soul speaking so directly to my heart about the beauty of this world, that the beauty is there in the simplest of things, and it is soul restoring beauty available to us every moment, in every person's face, in a flower arrangement, in a field. So I thank you for that very much. And the other thing I'll say quickly, and I know we're at time here, one day when I was, I don't know, I think I was about 11 or 12, and I was watching TV in the den with Mike, my little brother, and Dad came home from Brown at university, his job there, and he said, "Hi kids, I'm home." And neither of us looked up from the television, and he said, "Hey kids, I'm home." And we didn't respond at all. And that was a life-changing moment, because after that, my parents decided that we were allowed to watch 2 hours of television a week from then on, except for PBS. We could watch PBS. But the other things we could only watch 2 hours a week, unless the whole family was watching. But on our own, we had to pick what the 2 hours were. And I'm so grateful for that. I'm so grateful for that, because now, really in my whole adult life, I get so bored by a lot of television. I remember back in the 80s when LA Law was so popular, and it was before we had VCRs. So people would talk about how great LA Law was. So I'd sit down to watch it. I'm like, I'm going to watch LA Law this week and find out what everybody's talking about. First commercial break would come, and I'd say, "Oh, I'm going to get a cup of tea." Go get a cup of tea. And then an hour later, I'd go, "Oh my God, I'm watching LA Law. I totally forgot about it." I did that like 3 weeks in a row, and I said, I guess LA Law is not my show. So, but I find that a lot of that kind of entertainment, just, I can't even stand it. And I know that's because I wasn't, it didn't babysit me like it does a lot of children. I feel very grateful that you had the fortitude to say, "No, you're going to have to figure it out. You're going to have to read books. You're going to have to play with each other. You're going to have to do whatever you do, but you don't get to watch television all the time." So thank you for that as well. So I am going to make some announcements here, and it's very serendipitous. Next Sunday, we start our parenting series. I'm not a parent, but I've had parents, and as is obvious here, and I learned a lot, and I've also cared for nieces, nephews, goddaughters, and for children's friends' children. And I've also, for the last 20 years, I've counseled many a parent. So I'm teaching the first class. It is a series of 6 classes, and every other week we're going to offer a support group on the topic of the week before. And so people have been asking me to do a parenting class for years and years, and I've always kind of been, well, I'm not a parent. So what I did is I enlisted people who are really, they are teachers, they have learned a lot in their parenting, and they really know their topics. So we have wonderful topics in this series, Parenting with Spirit, and bringing spirit into your relationship with your children, teaching them about spirit, being mindful, practicing mindfulness with them, and for parents with children who have special needs. And we have just a wonderful list of topics and teachers. And I know we're going to have a beautiful time in our support groups. So this series starts next Sunday, Parenting with Spirit. And if you're interested, please enroll as soon as possible. And I will also say a big thank you to all the people who donate. Thank you. It means so much to me. And it means so much to this ministry, because your donations make it possible for us to do Sundays with Spirit. We send a tithe to the speakers and the musicians. And we also utilize, every member of our staff has their role on the web pages and the artwork and the uploads and the downloads and the emails and all the different things. So your donations help us to pay our staff and make these offerings possible. And one of the easiest ways to make a donation is to go to the acimtexts.com. You can also find it on the events page at jenniferhadley.com. And you can make a donation and sign up for our inspired text messages that go out every day. And you can set up a one-time donation or a monthly recurring donation of any amount. So that is a wonderful way to stay connected and to support the ministry at the same time. So I invite you to take a look at that. And I think those are the announcements that I have right now. And I am going to turn it over to Andrea. And do you have any announcements before you give us another song?
You can find me on Facebook, Andrea Lane, or on my website, andrealane.org. All right, this is a Ricky Byers song to kind of get you moving a little bit. There is a love inside of us all, and I don't know if you know there's a love that is so strong. Just thought I'd tell you, there is a power inside of us all, and I don't know if you know there's a power inside of us all, and it's time to celebrate. Celebrate, 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 celebrate. There is a light inside of your sister, and I don't know if you know there's a light that is so bright. Just thought I'd tell you, there is a light inside of your brother, and I don't know if you know there's a light that is so bright, and it's time to celebrate. Celebrate. fathers. Celebrate, 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 celebrate.
Thank you, Andrea.
Welcome.
Thank you, thank you. And just before Angela prays here, did we lose my dad? Looks like he's gone. Well, I'd like to thank Angela for being our host today. And thank you, Andrea and Billy, for your beautiful music. And thank you to all the fathers for being fathers. God bless you. Happy Father's Day to you. And I give a big thanks to my dad. I don't know what happened there, but he's gone. And so, Angela, will you take us home with a prayer?
Sure. So grateful to just give thanks for this beautiful opportunity to be together, to once again learn more about you, Jennifer, and have the presence of your father, and to feel the presence of our own fathers, and just to have this father-based centered healing. We're so, so grateful. We're thankful for the music and the joy that you expressed, Andrea. We can feel it. It's in our being, and we go forth to be this joyful, healed, uplifted, blessed soul. We share our blessings with everyone because we're truly one. We're thankful to know that we go forth to demonstrate it. And so with great joy, we let this be in the hands of God. And so it is. Amen.
Amen, amen, amen. Thank you, Angela. Thanks, everybody. Love you. See you next week.